Here we go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this week's installment of Let's Talk Horses, Life and Living, a podcast about, interesting conversations, inspiring people, horses, whatever else shows up. Thank you so much for joining me this week on the podcast, Morne. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk horses. And this week we've got a little bit of a different format because we've been playing around with technology. Mornay's joining us from South Africa, my second guest from South Africa, actually, which I'm very excited about. I feel like South Africa's starting to pull me. I've never been. It feels like it's like, Sarah, it's time to come here and visit. I need to see
Yes.
the nature and the wildlife and the horses there. But I'm so excited to meet you and talk a little bit about your journey with horses. So thank you again. And tell me straight up, I love to know, how did horses come into your life?
Okay, phew, that's a long journey. It's a journey of about 15 years. My now wife, I met at the airport. She was going somewhere, I was going somewhere, and coffee, and ba-dum, there we were. She was she is the horse person. I never had horses. I didn't grow up with horses. Animals, yes, but horses, I was always the guy that cheered on the races for some other reason. But if you know better, you do better.
Huh.
So her horse that you, I don't know, gives a thumbs up for me to date her, etc. So there I was with this 17.3 thoroughbred, highly strung, but what's been or what had to, what he went through, that was the thing. And she was overseas, and I sat with him in a stable with an abscess. I
Wow.
didn't know anything. It's just a bucket, Epsom salts, etc., etc. There I was sitting. So, you know, I think funny things happen, and this farrier came out, and him and five guys pushed this horse against the wall, trying to trim it. So I looked at it, and I wasn't a horsey person, but something, I suppose, something in my heart or something mystical happened, and I thought, there must be a kinder way to do this. And there I was with this horse, thinking kinder way, but I wasn't sure, what do you do? How do I do this? And my previous experience was hotels, a couple of other business. So, horses. And then there I was. I looked at it and I said to my wife, I said, I felt this feeling, and yeah, something happened. And from there, I changed my career totally,
Wow.
360. I focused. I saw a lot of horse people. I met a lot of horse people, and I suppose something just clicked. Yeah. And that was my journey with barefoot trimming first, and then later on in my career, body work, etc. So yeah, there was met people. I don't know what a file was. I don't know what a nipper was. A knife. The knives I knew was in the kitchen that you chop with. So, so I looked at the kit, etc., and I thought, the only way I'm going to learn is not from a farrier, because I don't want to know that. In my world that I chose, I didn't want to know that. Yes, I wanted to know what they do, how they do it, etc. But on my journey was a different journey. It was a horse journey, and a trim journey, and trying to understand the nuances of horses. How does this animal work?
Wow.
Because when I met this horse, it was like, yeah, something, I don't know, something. Let's call it something. Started my career. This is 15 years later. Um, I've probably, when I started, I chose a stud with Clydesdales, and I just started trimming. We make mistakes, and like I said, if you know better, you do better. So I trimmed my little crazy ass off, day in, day out, day in, day out. I didn't charge because I wanted the experience. I wanted to see what it is about. What's thrush? What's a high heel? What's a heel that runs forward? And so, in South Africa, there's no official study guide or anything like that.
Yep.
Not like in America, etc., where you go and you do the papers, you write it, etc., and you do it.
Yep.
However, look, I did a lot of courses, spoke with a lot of people, etc., but the taskmasters were the horses.
Yes.
They were the taskmasters for me, and the Clydesdales that I did, etc. It was they taught me. They
Wow.
taught me it's too short, it's too long, we're not happy, and there was that little something, the other side that's not science, and
Yep.
they taught me, and I started trimming, and first time I trimmed, I said, okay, I'll charge you 200 rand, which is a cheap thing here for trimming. And I did it and I did it. And the one guy said to me one day, listen, you charge too little, pal. And I was like, but I don't understand it. He said, if you charge too little, people are going to go and say, we don't know if this guy knows what he's doing.
Yep.
So, yes. So I put my price up and I just wished and wondered and hoped. And yeah, it happened.
Yep.
A lot of feet. I've trimmed thousands and thousands and more thousands of feet, miniatures, thoroughbreds, endurance horses, which is great, etc. Drafts, and I just trimmed. I trimmed. And my journey brought me here. We've got a sanctuary called
Yep.
Happy Heart Sanctuary,
Yep.
where we take in horses, not horses that are skeleton and bone, because I can't do that.
Yep.
To me, my heart cannot do that. Sorry.
Yep.
But it's horses that I've known that wants to be put down, etc., that we take in. And I think, I was ill a while ago. I was ill again. And the only thing that I think saved me was horses.
Yep.
That's the only constant in my life.
Mhm.
Horses. And that brought me to where I am today. And, I've got 2 or 3 philosophies that I have today. And that's what I live by. That's you've got to toe the line somewhere in life and say, okay, here's the line. This is what I do. I don't do bits. I don't do shoes. I don't do, saddles that are metal. So we've got a metal-free sanctuary.
Uh-huh.
So there are so many things, so many other things that you can do besides putting on a metal shoe.
Yep.
So somebody says to me, put on a metal shoe. I'm like, guys, I do not believe in it. It's not necessary. Yeah, I'm not. So yeah.
Cool. And just to give a little bit of context, while you were talking, then I quickly went to my XE app on my phone because I'm always looking at different currencies of things around the world. I didn't have South African, what are they called? ZAR. Is
Rand.
it rands? Yeah. I didn't have South African rands on there, but I just added it. And I wanted to tell everyone that 200 rands in Australian dollars is 17 Australian dollars.
Yep.
In US dollars, it's 11 US dollars. And in euro, which is the other benchmark, it's just under 10 euro for a trim. I mean,
There we
I
go.
pay $75 for each of my horses at the moment to have a barefoot trim. So if you ever want to,
I'll fly there to do it.
But I just want to backtrack a little bit because we're getting to know you. And I mean, because we had a few technical issues, unfortunately, we've only got about 30 minutes for this podcast today, but I already feel like there'll be a follow-up episode. But just so we can have some context here. So you met your now wife at the airport. Was it like this kind of like in passing thing? Like, how did that meeting, like, how was it that you ended up marrying this lady?
The tables were full.
Uh-huh.
So there was one seat, and I don't know, I was married before, divorced, and that was the corporate life, the things. I don't know. She's German.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I'm South African. I suppose something brought us together. Life brought us together.
Yeah. I just love those, like, those chance meetings that turn into something like this as well. And so then with your wife and what was she doing? Like, she had her big thoroughbred horse that you were taking care of. Was she involved in like sport with horses, or she's a pleasure rider, or?
Look, yeah, she that time she had 3 horses, and before I met her, she did all the dressage things like that. But as we were talking over the years, something didn't sit right with her.
Yeah.
But you've got to pull a horse into conformation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think our journey started together where she said, okay,
Mm.
no more bits, no more shoes, no more spurs, no more props. And I think her journey started a bit before mine.
Yeah.
But we linked up, and that's our journey. She doesn't ride anymore. We
Uh-huh.
don't ride in our sanctuary.
Uh-huh.
I don't ride. So I'm different from all your guests. I don't ride. To me, if it's a 2-ton horse and I can get under it, happy days. But getting on it, yeah, yeah. I've done a few rides, bitless and no shoes, and it's been amazing. It's been so awesome. But again, I love the ground on the ground, and I love touching the horse, etc. So that's what I love, not the riding.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so on your Instagram profile, you've got barefoot trimmer, which I would love to delve into a little bit more as well, but we'll
Yeah.
see how much time we have. But then you also do fascia trauma release. What is that?
Fascia is a connective tissue
Yep.
in the body. So
Yep.
if you don't have, okay, let me put it to you this way, and maybe the people having a look will understand. I'm vegetarian, by the way. So if you cut a steak
Yep.
and you pull it, there's that white connective something. So that's the fascia.
Yep.
So fascia, connective tissue all over the body. It's around your muscle, bone, ligaments, etc. If you don't have fascia, whoop, will just fall apart. So, so the fascia working on horses, it's body work trying to set the fascia back to where it was.
Mhm.
So that's the body work. I'm busy with something, and I'm learning. It's the Masterson method,
Uh-huh.
which
Yep.
is which is magic. I did it the first time, and I was like, wow, this is magic.
Yep.
So look, I don't have qualifications. I'm studying and learning towards it, but I use that together with my fascia.
Yep.
So I've got a couple of things in my wheelhouse, if you want, that I use. Helps for the feet, because if the feet aren't right,
Yeah.
the body aren't right, the horse is not right. So happy horse, happy feet, happy body.
Yeah. Wow. And so with because as soon as I read the fascia trauma release, is it
Mm.
um like is that where you have found a lot of horses tend to store trauma is in the fascial parts of the
Uh,
body, or do you
yeah,
more?
I think the Masterson method more focuses more on the trauma where it sits.
Uh-huh.
The fascia is the body work. So if a horse is not going forward and it's pulling in the rear, I always look at the feet first. Then
Yeah.
I work my way back and see where it is. And fascia is a much more harder
Uh-huh.
technique compared to the Masterson method. So the fascia, you'll see a little. If you have a look at the horse, there's maybe a little gap. So you've got to bring the fascia back together. So
Yep.
as soon as you bring that together, it's a straight line, if you
Yep.
want.
Yeah. And were the horses your taskmaster when it came to learning this stuff as well? Like you followed that with their bodies when learning about body work, or?
Yes, yes. Look, the bodywork came late. It was just before COVID hit.
Uh-huh.
I did a qualification. So my taskmaster passed away. Unfortunately, we had to put him down, and that's the worst day of my life.
Mm.
Um, but the horses after that, yes. When I get to a yard and the horse is not happy, I go, okay, let me quickly check the fascia. What's going on, Masterson? Okay, this is what's happening. He's not happy here, and then we go from there and try to get the connective tissue together again.
Wow.
So
And so,
bringing that steak back.
yes, the nicely packed steak.
Yes.
So, is this your, like, you travel, like, what does a day in the life look like for you? What is a day in the life of Morne, and how you are in, the
Yeah,
horse?
I've got ADHD and bipolar, so
Mhm.
I'm all over the place. I took my meds and then I'm okay. But when I get to the horses, that's where I really, really calm down and get into a zen moment, if you want.
Yeah.
A day in the life is it's different every day. That's why I said ADHD and bipolar. It's not the same every day.
Yeah.
a day in the life. Look, I've got about 100 and odd horses I do a month. They go through these hands, all of them. So yeah, a day in the life could be going up to Joburg, flying up to Joburg, which is about 600 kilometers from here.
Mhm.
Flying up there and looking at horses there, endurance horses, coming back, going to the Midlands, which is north of me, about 200 k's, and I go and see the Clydesdales or the Frisians. I've got a big yard with Frisians, which is beautiful. So life in Des Morne is mud and dirty.
But I bet it smells good in a way. Like it's so weird.
Oh,
This is
you know,
how it's filthy,
we are
dirty, but it smells amazing.
we are horse people, so we kick a little bit of shit if you want, and we smell it and look at it and see
Yeah,
if it's right.
yeah,
So I love the smell. Yes, I do. I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah, and the smell of the horse was just burying your face in their neck or and just inhaling their scent is one of the most like I don't know,
Amazing.
it's like a scent therapy. It's a therapy of their own, of its own. I mean, just
Yeah, I when I get a horse and it's not very happy, I look back at a couple of things and I go James French and I go, okay, so I take the horse away, and people always told me don't sit on your knees in front of a horse. They might think it's a predator. Well, guys, no, it's not, because I take them away. I sit on my knees and I suppose I blow my breath into their noses, and to me something happens and it works for me. They calm down and then we go from there. So that breath, your best breath in the world.
yeah. Yeah. And so just backtracking back to 15 years ago when you met your now wife and her big thoroughbred, like can you just elaborate a little bit on that? Like, because that's a big change, going from like a corporate hospitality sort of, hotel background and throwing it all away in order to embark on something you like, knew nothing about sort of thing. Like, can you talk a little bit about how that was? Like, was it
Um,
always easy? Was it like, yeah,
I don't think it was a difficult decision. Something just happened in my life, and it was okay. This is where I should be.
yeah,
I suppose if it was earlier in my life, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have. But I suppose I was at that moment where I was supposed to be, and I just said to her, "Listen, she's a big corporate farmer." And I said to her, Tanya, I've got to do something about my life, and I need to change this. And it was a big difference, eh? It was a big change,
yeah,
big change, because I had to just leave everything, which is great. I had to put it aside and start from scratch.
yeah,
And I think that taught me a lot about myself and what I can do and what I want to do and how to do it.
yep.
And this thoroughbred, he bucked me about 4 times the one day. And the one day he picked me up. He was so big, he just picked me up by the shoulder. So we
Sorry,
had
I
this
shouldn't laugh,
relationship.
but it's like,
No, he did. He did. We took him to a show, and he obviously didn't want to be there. And
yeah,
we didn't understand. And he picked me up the one day, and I was like, Raz, really? And that's where we stopped with all of the competing. And you have to, what do you do with your horse? People ask me. I say, what do you do with your dogs or your cats?
yeah,
It's the same.
yeah,
This thoroughbred, yeah, his feet were very difficult, interesting feet. So he was a good guy to practice on and see, can I change the feet? Can I not change the feet? What can I do it? And it was a big change, but I'm not, people say, but financially, how did you do it? Yeah, I had to dig deep, start the career and get in there and make money so that we could live, I suppose. And
yeah,
it was hard going. It was hard going to learn because you can't just learn one day and trim the next day. It's a whole process. You've got to learn, you've got to learn, you've got to learn. Still learning today.
yeah,
That's the great thing about life. And what I love is I want to learn something new every day.
yeah.
And I do. I do. The horses teach me something brand new every day. So it was a difficult change, but it was a great change, and I'm happy I did it. Very happy.
Totally. I can tell. Like it almost seems like, and I know it was 15 years ago, so it's probably, also now you've had all this time and it's very different, but it almost seems like it was just so natural in a way. Like it was never even, it was obviously tough. There were moments, but it was like this is my path now and I'm going to follow that path. But I do wonder, what about like because for people out there, I just love this invitation for people because I think a lot of people that are in sports with their horses, or maybe they even just do basic ride, or like whatever they're doing, I think everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have something in their world where they're like, oh, I'm putting my horse in a situation they don't want to be in. And I think a lot of the time people aren't willing to speak up because the horse industry's pretty judgmental, let's say. If you hadn't noticed, there's a lot of people that have a lot of points of view and a lot of judgments about how you should do this and how you should do that, and you're doing it wrong, and tell that horse, pull that horse into line, otherwise he's going to walk all over you. So I wonder, like, making that big change though, like, how, like, because it's such a brave choice for me. I would say it was a brave move and a brave choice. But like, how did you handle that? Like, how did you find your people now? Because obviously you're in high demand if you're flying all over the country. Like, how did you reconcile? I don't know. Like, can you just talk a little bit about if you get what I'm asking? Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Yeah, look, when I started, it was a great change. I'm not gonna even worry about that. But yeah, people bash you, and I met a farrier the one day, and he said, "You trim like this," and I was like offended. I was like, "Okay, what am I doing wrong?" But you know what? You grow a thick skin.
Yeah.
You do, okay? Because everybody starts out with that little thing about the horse. There's magic with the horse. When the kids are young, there is something they don't just go, yeah, I want a big crop to hit this horse and
No.
and I think that's something that's lacking in the industry, is because we want to get kids on the horse as soon as we can.
Yeah.
We don't give them a chance to just bond with the horse, brush it, etc., etc. So yeah, I've had my setbacks of people bashing, haters be haters.
Yeah.
But I've grown up. I was offended. I was always, vets were saying this and that, and I was, oh, I'm scared of vets, and I'm scared of dentists, and how am I going to? Today, I'll chase a vet out of my gate. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
If you want to twitch my horse, there's the gate. You know what I'm saying? I know about teeth. I know about feet, so I can stand my ground. Fine.
Yeah.
Haters be haters, let them be. But I can stand my ground today and say, I toe the line. This is what I do. I believe in it. I'm actually good at what I do, and I get paid. So, yeah, no, it was difficult in the beginning because you are scared and you don't know what you're doing, and this big industry and guys with shoes, etc., etc. It is, by the way, it is a big industry. If we take
Yeah.
shoes out of the equation, the whole industry falls down. It
Yeah.
falls into pieces. We
Yeah.
take bits out, the whole industry falls to pieces.
Well, then,
Saddles,
the supplements and the food and the like all of these things that have been introduced in order to make us feel like we need to buy all of this stuff in order to be a good horse owner, where, yeah.
But the funny thing that I always say to people is, because I believe in three things: diet, turnout, and trimming. You got those three, your horse will be fine. Well, should be fine, should be 90, 80%, let's say that. But the thing is, I don't know how it's in Australia and other countries, but in our country, the syllabus for the vets is hundreds and hundreds of years, old. There's no thinking, there's no new thinking or adapting the syllabus and saying, okay, let's have a look at this. The same with farriers, and farriers always say, we've always been doing it this way.
Yeah.
And I go, human trafficking, they've always been doing it this way, but is it right? I mean, is it right? And they'll try to convince you that you need pads on the horse, you need shoes on the horse, you need, all that stuff. The best thing, and I'm not knocking farriers, but I don't agree with them. I don't care.
Yeah.
The best thing I ever heard from a farrier why they put shoes is because the wear is quicker than the grow.
Okay.
And I sat back and I was like, but you guys cut off so much. So I don't understand. I've got endurance horses that do endurance and they use their feet, and they're fine. I don't have to put a shoe because the use is more than the growth, you know. So I've, like I said, I've trimmed hundreds of horses. Uh, uh, the feet though and the shoes. Let me just pop in there quickly. Is that any horse can go barefoot, but not all owners can.
Yep. Right.
And that's the thing. So when you take off shoes, there's a journey. There's a year or two
Yes.
journey that is going to happen. You
Yep.
know, that you can work it through. You know, with shoes, a horse can be laying on 4 feet and look sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, what, like, can you think of a few things? Like, obviously, over the years, and I mean, you know, there must have been some really cool, profound moments that you've had with your horses or horses. Like, you know, you have this sanctuary with, do you have 100 horses in the sanctuary there, or how many
No,
horses?
just 12.
Oh, 12. Okay. So maybe one day, maybe one day. I'm like, what would it take to have 100 horses? Um, so with your horses there, like, I don't know, like, you know, you mentioned how they teach you something new every day. Is there anything in particular that you can think of right now that's happened recently or maybe many years ago? It doesn't really matter, where something a horse has shown you or taught you that has been an incremental part in your life, like in changing something in your world?
Yes, I trimmed a mare that's hormones were obviously not right, and she was acting like a stallion.
Oh,
So this horse would be jumping up and down, standing, and I trimmed, and she jumped up and standing. And you know, the lesson or the big lesson I got there was that humans don't do horses don't do human attributes.
yeah.
So the horse is being naughty. No, no. Horse doesn't say I'm going to be naughty now or the night before. We're planning. We're gonna back the owner today. They don't do that. Yeah, they don't. If you you know if you just listen to them, you'll get it. You'll get it. So that was one profound moment. The other one, you know, we always look for acknowledgement and that we know what we're doing, and people say yes you do. So about 6 weeks ago, and this was like a moment that I, besides my thoroughbred that I had, the big one, is we were in a place called Kaapse Whip in South Africa, so there's wild horses there.
Wow.
So we went there for something else, but I was like, I want to see these wild horses. I need to see them. And you know, I went to sit down, and the stallion was there, and the mares. It said not the whole herd. And this little baba came over to me and gave me a kiss.
Oh,
And I was like, I started crying. I was like, why? How? What? And that was again, I suppose, saying to me that yes, you're doing right what you are doing. You know, there must be something that you're doing right, or else the stallion would have charged you and kicked you. Um, so that was a really profound moment in my life. Before that was a stallion. So people always say stallions, they're crazy. I'm like, no, no, it's the way you treat them with your metal altars and metal things, and you make them that crazy. So a place where I used to trim that I don't anymore because my soul won't make it was a stallion, and everybody said to me, "Listen, Bell, this oak." Mm-mm. So I said, "Listen, just everybody go away, just
yeah.
go away. Give me an altar, and that's fine." So I walked with him. I took him away, and you know, I was like, "You misunderstood.
Yeah.
They don't understand. They don't listen to what you're saying. You misunderstood." And what I always do, when I get to a horse and I take it away and breathe in its nose, etc., I ask them and I invite them. That's what I do. I go sit there, I look at him and I say, "Listen, you're welcome to come to me so that we can talk. And if there's any questions, you can ask me." So I sat and I stood with him, and I think maybe in 10 minutes, We were trimming.
Wow.
And he was hanging out and his head was down and he was sleeping. And that was like, people misunderstand horses. They don't listen and they like whip them. And you have to listen to me. And I only see you an hour a week. So you've got to perform. And, the profound thing is like horses have bad days, guys.
Yeah.
They have bad days like us.
Yeah.
So when I trim and a horse is having a bad day, I don't trim them. I
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
And people say, "How do you make money, etc." It's like I'll come back
Yeah.
and do it.
Yeah.
So those profound moments in my life, yes. And I think sorrow. The lesson that I learned there was when we had to put down our big boy. And that was sad. That was so sad. I still want to cry, but it's so sad. It's there I learned real sorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like from that sorrow though, like because I mean sometimes I think, it is that deep emotion, but it's also like honoring the horse as well and everything that he's shown you in like everything that like this honoring of them and everything they've taught you and shown you in your life as well, like where they're like a teacher above all teachers, where my two horses live here with me in my just in my paddock here, and I can even just go and feed them, and that I'm like learning. I'm like, wow, like I walk away changed just from doing something like preparing their food and filling their hay nets and putting everything out for them. And if I'm willing to be there with them and be present, I walk away and I'm like my whole world's changed again. My whole life's changed again.
Look. I think people maybe look at me and say, "Oh, it's macabre." No, no. Because what I do, and I say to people, the horses I trim, I know their names, I know their personalities, I know their feelings. So if one of those horses get put down, it's
Yeah.
trauma in my life.
Yeah.
It's trauma. It could be a customer's horse, but I see it, I talk to it, I feel it.
Yeah.
So to me, that's when they lose a horse, it's like I'm losing a horse.
Yeah.
The one thing I do, and if I know a horse is going to be put down, I do a goodbye trim.
What is that? What does that look like?
I do a normal trim, but I say goodbye. So
Oh,
if I know they're going to get put down, I go and do a trim, and I suppose we say goodbye.
wow. That's amazing. Look, our time's up. So I want to just read one little thing because I found this post on your Instagram page and I just thought it was so cool because I'd heard this word before, but I
I am
liked,
Kahu.
yeah, I just want to read this and then maybe we can leave the listeners on a little bit of a cliffhanger and then we can find time sometime in the future, and whether it's in a week or a few weeks or months. So I honor the journey of every animal in my care, from horses, donkeys, ponies, and miniatures to cows, sheep, and more. As a barefoot hoof care specialist, equine body practitioner, and sanctuary custodian, I focus on guarding the natural hoof and supporting holistic well-being. It's not just a service, it's a calling. Kahu of all equines in my care. So just to wrap it up here, what is Kahu?
Okay, Kahu is a Hawaiian word. If you watch the video, I saw it, I cried, and I said, I have to implement this on mine.
Yeah.
So I'm Kahu, just in short, means I'm a protector,
Yep.
I'm a guardian, and I'm a keeper of a little bit of their souls.
Amazing. Amazing. I would love to maybe kick off our next podcast delving into that a little bit more and inviting people to start having that as their point of view and their jumping off point when it comes to their horses and their animals and, and the world, the nature, the things that we should all be custodians of. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on. This has been a pleasure and much too short of a chat. I would love to, continue on sometime very soon. So thank you again, Morne, for being on the podcast. And thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week, basically. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to leave you with about four words.
Please.
Leave your ego at the gate.
Yeah, I saw that I actually read that on your Instagram. And I think it was even when I went to feed my horses today. Like, I'm like, how much does even just unconsciously, how much do we let our egos in every little choice we make overrule the things that we could actually have show up if that wasn't there? So thank you so much. Leave your ego
It's a
at the gate.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you again. And we'll get some places you can find Mornay. His Instagram page is amazing and packed full of these like cool short things that you can take into life as well as into being with your horses. So thank you again. Thank you for
Thank
listening
you. I'll
and
see you soon.
see you soon.